Randy Schnick says, why are you against people getting health care through Obamacare? I'm against people getting health care through Obamacare for a couple of reasons, Randy. First of all, it's not free health care. It's being paid for. So what's happening is my money is being taken out of my wallet at gunpoint by the federal government. They're taking it to Washington. They're building a website, which should have cost $10 to $20 million, and they're paying $900 million to their crony friends for the website. They've set up a standing army. About as many people administer healthcare regulations as the people who actually provide the healthcare. All those people have to be paid, so there's that healthcare money that's been cut again. Then they decide how much of this money is going to go to their union friends and how much is going to go to the Acorn and all the rest of the stuff, and all that money is going to disappear. So these are the actual numbers, for every dollar of healthcare that the government takes from me by force, they produce about 35 to 40 cents worth of healthcare. So my first feeling would be, well, if I'm buying healthcare, why would I send them $1 worth of healthcare and get 40 cents of healthcare back? That's number one. That's number one. Number two, since I'm paying for health care, why would I let one person determine whether I get the health care or not if that person isn't me? If that person isn't me, then why would I let somebody else take my money to give me my health care? Because if I let them take my money to provide me my health care through the government, then they can turn it off. Oh, that doesn't happen. It happens every single day. It happens every single day in the National Health Service in Great Britain and in the healthcare system up in Canada. Every single day, people are told, we are really sorry, but we are out of options. We've run out of the budget for this. The thing right now, the best thing we can do, you're 82 years old. A hip replacement costs X amount of money. We just don't have the money. We just don't because of budget shortfalls. So here's some pain medication. Go down and lie down, and here's some morphine so you don't feel quite so bad. And as you get older, then the options get smaller and smaller. And when the government healthcare system says you're done because you don't get to go to another government. Of all of the discussions I ever had on healthcare in my entire life, the one that meant the most to me by a country mile was when I was in Canada, talking to a man who ran a small oncology lab up there, who said that, first of all, Canadian healthcare is not what they want you to think. There are several different layers of healthcare in Canada, and your outcome is determined by your access, and your access is determined by who you know. If you actually think that the people who run the government in Canada don't get to the front of the line in terms of healthcare, well, guess what? You're wrong. But of all the things this guy said, the thing that moved me actually to tears was, forget the fact that the Canadians have to come down to America to get the health care that they need because they don't want to wait in line for 9 months for pneumonia or whatever the case may be. So they're paying twice. It's coming out of their taxes, then they're paying cash to get it done right down here. So the reason I don't like Obamacare is because they're trying to turn us into something that's a patent failure. And I keep driving around the point, but the point is this. This guy ran a oncology lab. And basically what he said was there was hardly a week that went by where he did not get a letter or an email from a friend or just an acquaintance, maybe somebody he knew 20 years ago in high school, who said, hey, listen, I've got terminal this, or my daughter has terminal that. And the healthcare system has said, I'm sorry, there's nothing left that we can do. We've tried everything. We've tried every procedure that we have, and we've spent the money. I'm not even claiming they're saying they don't have the money. They're just saying, we've just done everything. There's just no more procedures left. We're terribly sorry. Here's some medication. Go home and die peacefully. And this guy gets letters and calls all the time from people saying, could you look at my results? Because the system is finished with me. And he looks at the results. And he says to them virtually every time, he says, there is a guy at the University of Tennessee who is trying a new procedure or new clinical trials that are showing 14% survival rate for cancer in this stage of development. Now, 14% may not sound good to you, but I'll tell you something. If I had terminal cancer and the government said, we're done, I'd jump on that 14% like there was no tomorrow. No tomorrow. Because what this guy said to me, he said this verbatim. He said, in Canada, when the government decides that you're finished, you're dead. But in America, you're not dead until you're dead. And that's why I don't want the government controlling my health care. I don't want the inefficiency, and I don't want the control. Probably enough people have been kicked out of health care because of Obamacare to cover the numbers that signed up that weren't covered before. But if the entire problem were, the highest number I heard was 7% of the population prior to Obamacare was not covered. other 93% of the people in this country had, without question, the best healthcare system in the world, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. So if somebody said to me, hey, we're going to governmentize the whole thing, we're just going to take over the whole thing, or we'll raise enough taxes for the American taxpayers to pay every single person who's not on healthcare and get them on Blue Cross, I would have taken that second choice in a heartbeat. But no. And when you get right down to it, the real reason healthcare costs so much money is because the government's involved. There's only two parts of the healthcare system where prices are falling, and one of them is LASIK and the other one is cosmetic surgery. And the only two reasons that LASIK and cosmetic surgery prices are going down while everything else is going up is because LASIK and cosmetic surgery are not covered by insurance. And so people shop around and they get the best rates, and businesses, like the doctors, are in competition with each other to offer the best possible service at the lowest possible price, and guess what happens? So if you want to fix the healthcare system in the country, you basically eliminate the insurance government tripod. You basically say to people, start an individual health fund that you're going to be tax-free. Your employer can kick into that a little bit like he does before. You're not married to the employer. You want to go someplace else, fine. You're not part of this New Deal lunacy where your health care had to be provided because they couldn't raise your salary because FDR put a salary cap on things. That's how we got locked into this job and healthcare thing, is FDR. And basically make healthcare like any other commodity, like detergent or like a bicycle or anything else you want to buy. You can shop anywhere around in the country and you can compare what you get for what it costs. Make your choices. And instead of charging the insurance company to go to the doctor to take a look at a sprained finger or a sore throat, you pay for that in cash, which means that he doesn't have to process all these claims and he can charge you less money. You pay cash for that out of this fund. And then you buy, with that money, you also buy stop-loss insurance. This is the kind of insurance that says if you get cancer, if you get hit by a bus, and all of a sudden we're going to kick in $200,000, but that's basically not paying insurance for everything. Your car insurance doesn't cover the refueling your car, and it doesn't cover balancing your tires. And if you get a ding on your door in your car, that's not covered by your insurance. It's covered by your deductible, because if a ding on a car door was covered by insurance, everybody would take their cars in to get dings painted at the cost of thousands of dollars per ding. It's a giant mess because the government's involved, and once the government subsidizes things, then businesses make the smart move, which is to suck up the government subsidies. It's not the right move. It's not the moral move, but from a business point of view, it's a smart move. It's like banks. If a government's going to say, hey, you write a loan to somebody for a mortgage, before the government says anything, the guy says, I'm not writing that person a loan or a mortgage. Their credit's terrible. The government says, no, you are going to write that loan. Then the banker says, well, if we write that loan, we're going to go out of business. Then the government says, well, don't you worry. If anybody defaults on a loan, we'll cover it. Then the bank says, you're going to cover all of the bad loans that we make? Yes. Then the bank says, it's no longer about making good loans. It's about making as many loans as we can because we can't lose. And that's what happens when the government gets involved with business. They change the market equation. They change the risk and reward equation, the balance and loss equation, and weird and stupid and bad things start happening. Pretty simple.